Not only was he a second-round pick by the Boston Celtics just about 8 weeks ago, but he comes to us today literally about 2 hours fresh from practice. So Shemi has been working today while we're playing. Not only is he a former star at Southern Methodist, SMU for the Ponies, but he was also a Duke star. He's the former American Athletic Conference Player of the Year and the tournament MVP from this past year. Talk about a pretty big 12-month spell for one of the basketball's brightest stars. So please give your warm Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame welcome to Shemi Ojeleye. People have never mistaken us for each other, so here you go. Welcome in, man.
Appreciate it.
No worries. Every once in a while, I walk up Shemi and I'm like, good afternoon, I'm Shemi Ojeleye, and people look at me funny, but I didn't even try today, because you're much taller than I am.
Yeah, I don't think it would work.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's the hair.
It's got to be the hair. It's got to be the hair. So, Shemi, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk, I want to work backwards, because your journey has been one, as a college hoophead, that I have really enjoyed following. And then your draft night and the way that this has developed. But first, I made a joke to start out that it's too bad we don't have anything to talk about with the Celtics these days. So can I just get sort of your take on what it's like to be a member of the Celtics, specifically, I don't know, this week, this offseason, when things seem to be happening so rapidly?
Well, first of all, it's a blessing to be a member of the Celtics. You know, it's a great organization, and when they drafted me, I was so excited just because of their history and Coach Stevens, and the management they have is great. They made a lot of trades recently. Just from when I got drafted, it seems like half the team is gone, but
yeah.
Great players go in, great players go out, and it's a business. And I think they're making all the right moves to try to help this team be the best it can be.
I was telling everyone before you came out that you really just came from working out from a session.
Right.
The last 8 weeks, 10 weeks for you, from going from college junior, cleaning out your room, to getting ready to move to one of the huge cities on the East Coast, has got to be an absolute flash. How important has basketball been, specifically just the time on the court, in keeping things slowed down for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think once you get to this level, it's easy to lose sight of why you do what you do. So I think just getting out there, remembering that it's just a game, something that you love, something that you always loved. I think it keeps in perspective, keeps you humble, and just allows me to stay grounded.
And it has to. And can you talk for a minute about what these sessions are like? I mean, you have a lot of young guys on this team, and a lot of huge expectations. Hitting the court in Waltham, has it changed much for you as opposed to what it was like 10 weeks ago when you were at SMU?
Not a whole lot. I mean, Coach Stevens, the whole staff is great, great supporting us, trying to get us to come along, learn the offense, learn our roles for this upcoming season. But, it's just been a lot of individual work to try to, get us up to speed, and then, like I said, going through sets, trying to get us to understand exactly what we're doing out there, so not just running around. So a lot of terminology and things, but I think we'll be ready by the time season comes.
Yeah. No, Shemi, your draft process is fascinating to me for so many reasons. One of which, and I love it. I sit here with a lot of current players, a lot of rookies. You've got a couple of years of experience on many of the rookie class. You're 22 years old. You've played at 2 major programs, and you still had a year of eligibility left. Can you talk to me about what was sort of the deciding factor, and when you tossed your hat in the draft ring, but then when you decided to stay, what was the deciding factor that you were definitely going to be an NBA player?
I think you never really know, especially in my situation, being a little older, you never really know what's going to happen. So for me, it was just a journey of faith. I had to just trust God that this is what he had in store for me. So I think there's a lot of times in life where you're not sure what's going to happen, but, you just have to take that leap of faith. So that's what I did, and worked out for the best.
I wonder how much you come from such a strong family background too. I think folks are in the medical field. You've got a real strong. Obviously, your brother played Division I hoop as well. How much of the decision came from the family as well?
They've always backed me, always supported me. Like you said, my brother playing ball, I think that helped me fall in love with the game. My mom was with me everywhere, taking me to AAU games and tournaments. all over the country. So without her support, without my dad's support, my sister, I wouldn't be where I am for sure. So I think, when I started to get ready for the draft process, I think them being behind me all the way helped me have that confidence to go through with it.
So draft night happens, and draft night for me is a holiday. I love to, especially again, being a college hoop nerd, and that second round is one that I always spotlight because it's always got players that I've fallen in love with from, mid-majors. Your name is on that list, obviously. What was your draft night like? Can you take us through, because, well, no one in here yet besides you has gone through it. And, maybe some of these youngsters might. What is draft night really like for a guy as he waits for his name to be called?
I think, obviously the guys that they invite to the green room, they have a pretty good idea of where they're going to go. But for the rest of us, it's kind of just a toss-up. So you're just sitting there with your family, like I was, and just, kind of just hoping, that things are going to turn out. So it was long, it was tense, and probably one of the most stressful things I've been through, to be honest.
Was it?
Yeah, when they call my name, I start crying. I'm like, this is crazy. It's a dream come true, and like all the work you put in, finally, amounted to what you wanted to. So, it's a long process, especially for me. But I think it's something that, thinking back on it, I'll never have that experience again. But if you can get to that point, it's really something special.
Clearly, we know you're a Celtic now. We see a lot of Celtics jerseys here. We're only about 90 miles from Boston. But growing up in Kansas, playing in hoop and North Carolina and Texas, when you hear the Boston Celtics have selected you, does that carry, being a student of basketball, a guy who's grown up in the game, does that kind of thing really hold weight for a guy who just wants to play in the association? When you hear Boston Celtics, when you know you're going to be wearing one of those polos with the four-leaf clover on it, does that really mean something?
That night and just throughout the whole process, I just wanted to get into the NBA. But I think once you realize what team you're a part of and what kind of history they have, how many championship banners they have up in the facility, it's I think it makes you want to be that much better because you know what's come before you and who's paved the way. So, I have a lot of respect for those guys that have opened the doors for guys like myself to play. And I think the whole organization, they have that mindset of winning and respecting the game.
So, Shemi, let's talk a little bit about college, because I watched you for, your time at Duke, and then you appear at SMU, and maybe I invented this, but it strikes me that you worked really hard at altering your game at SMU. You became, and again, I might just be making this up. I'm thinking about my experience watching you for 4 years. You, as a big, you developed an inside-out game. You were suddenly, it looked to me from the outside like you were working on your outside shot. Was I making that up, or was that a concerted effort?
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is always be ready for whatever coach asks you to do. That's the best way to go on the floor, the best way to get out there and get noticed. So, when I got there, Coach Brown wanted me to play inside all the time, and I wanted 6'6", so that wasn't going to work too well. So, Coach Jankovic obviously took over, and, we're playing 5 out, so I need to, figure out a way to be effective. So I think just always being ready to adapt is big time in this game.
It's big time, too, and I think it also helps when you have guys around you who are willing to go into the gym with you when it's dark, right? When the lights are out. When we had Glenn Robinson in a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about those darkened moments in the gym at Michigan for him, when it was just him. He had to decide whether or not he was going to stay for an extra 30 minutes. Did you have a couple guys like that who were always willing to be in the gym with you, putting in the extra work?
No question. I think that's what made our team so successful this year. I think every single guy on the team, whether it was a walk-on or a freshman or a senior, they were all willing to commit that extra time to the gym. So I think it makes it easier for the coaches. It allows everyone to have that trust in each other because that we're all committed to winning.
And now I'm fascinated as well by your recruiting process, because you really unofficially had 2 recruiting moments, right? You had the moment where you commit to go to Duke, and then you also, a couple of years later, get to sort of play the court again and figure out where you're going to transfer to. Can you talk about your first recruiting experience and what that was like for the, a guy who wasn't just making waves in Kansas, you were a nationally known prospect, to suddenly have all of these coaches for a 17-year-old Shemi Ojeleye to be entertaining Coach Krzyzewski and all of the other coaches. What is that like for you? And can you recall those moments?
It was crazy. I think, I'm from a pretty small town of like 12,000 people, so you dream of, playing at, schools like that, like the Dukes and the North Carolinas, but, when Coach K is sitting in my living room, I couldn't really put into words what it felt like at that time. And, now that I'm a little older, I think I really start to appreciate, the opportunity that I had to visit those schools and to talk to those guys, to be around those coaches. So I think if you get that chance, you're fortunate to get that chance, I think you should try to take advantage of it, and it's a true blessing.
Is it ever possible to get too many calls, or were you just loving it? I mean, I always feel like, because, someone calls me and I'm like, just text me, right? But in that moment, you got to answer every phone call, right?
Honestly, I hated getting
Did you?
getting those calls like that. There's a point where my voicemail box is full and my phone just keeps buzzing. So I had to put it down for a little bit. Get off social media, just try to focus on being normal. So it was a blessing, but it was a little too much at times.
You're the guy in the cafeteria, like, Roy Williams again. Now, your older brother, we talked a little bit about your older brother, how he played as well at K-State. So obviously basketball is something that your family has grown up with. What are some of your early memories of the game? And obviously growing up in Kansas, that doesn't get much more of a strong basketball tradition in that state. When does basketball show up in your memory first?
For me, I think it's kind of just always been there. Like, my mom shows me this picture of me at, like, I think 2, like, holding a little basketball in the driveway. But I've been playing as long as I can remember. I think it's just something that I did as a kid that was just fun. I think, if you can keep it that way for as long as you can, then that's great. And, like I said, it was just an activity at first. It wasn't something that I really thought, this could be my job one day. But I think when you enjoy it at an early age, and it just helps you to stick with it.
So here's the part that I promised earlier. After this question, I am going to ask which of you would like to ask Shemi Ojeleye a question. So start working on that now, and after he answers this, I'll ask you to raise your hand. Hopefully one of the great Hoop Hall staffers will recognize you and put you in a line to our right, your left, so you have been warned. Shemi, when did you realize that your game was different? Because you talk about it being just a game and just fun, and the hours that you spent weren't work. And yet, you did the high-powered AAU stuff. You were, again, one of the great 5-star recruits in the nation. But when did you notice that it was different for you than it was for some of your friends?
I think I noticed it was different just because I was willing to put in just extra time. I think I just liked it. I don't know. There's something about the game that I just couldn't get away from all the time. Whenever, practice ended, I would just stay in the gym as long as I could, I was almost in there too much, my parents would say, but I don't think it was that I was that much better than my friends. I just loved to be in there. So I think that helped me to get better and, improve my game. And then, as much as I loved it, it made me stick with it even when things got tough.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have a question for Shemi Ojeleye, feel free to raise your hand right now, and one of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come around and select a number of you. Between now and opening night, I know for us as a fan and as someone who, watches more basketball than maybe pleases my wife, I know obviously this is when the hard work happens for guys who are breaking into the league for the first time. Between now and opening night, what's on your list of things that you need to improve on? Has Coach Stevens given you that list yet, or have you had those discussions? And what will you be working most on?
I think just trying to be consistent. In college, you don't play as many games, but the NBA season's a lot longer. So I think trying to sharpen every aspect of your game so that you can last the entire year. And then another thing is just trying to stay ready. I think going to a different team. Obviously, you're a rookie, you're a young guy. So trying to keep your mind sharp, trying to get ready for times where you're going to come in off the bench. So just being prepared for, I guess, the unexpected. I guess.
As someone who watches Hard Knocks, as just speaking to it, just be ready to sing your alma mater. That's all I can. Just be ready whenever you just know the alma mater. That's just my advice.
Appreciate it.
Just make one up. I don't know.
I might have to, yeah.
Shemi, finally, this is my last question. It's your first time in the Hall of Fame, sitting beneath all the watchful eyes of all the Hall of Famers that have come before, on the cusp of your own NBA career. Can you put this experience, this moment into context for us? What is this moment like today?
I think we were talking about it over there before you invited me up. It's just been a crazy past, I guess, 6 months to a year. You know, I never imagined I'd be sitting here, you know, under all these great faces or getting ready to get into the NBA. You know, all I can say is that you never really know what God has in store for you, but I think if you just try to do the right thing every day, then, you know, I think you'll get the best out of life.
It's awesome. Thanks so much. Let's get to some hard questions now, right? This is when, yeah, look at these. These are gonna get some fastballs being thrown now. All right, come on up. I only have 2 requests for you. You stand right here. 1, you allow me to hold the microphone, and 2, you introduce yourself to Shemi before you ask your question.
Hi, hello, my name is Jack.
What's up, Jack?
Nothing. What is harder, practice in the NBA or practice in college?
Good question. I think practice in college, you know, they try to just run us into the ground sometimes. You know, I think, I mean, I'll be honest, they keep us in there for hours at a time, and it was almost too much, especially with class and everything else you had to do. But in the NBA, you know, guys have families, guys have things that they have to do, so they try to just keep it sharp. They try to keep it short, and I think they're both tough, but, you know, you're prepared for it. Your coaches will do a good job of helping you through it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack. A round of applause for Jack. Have you thought of what that's going to be like to get paid now for something you love to do? That's pretty awesome.
It's weird.
It's weird, right? Yeah. It's not just weird for me. It's weird for, yeah, that's crazy. I love it. Hey, bud.
My name is Tyler, and I'm from Westerly. And did you play other sports when you grew up?
Yeah, he asked if I played other sports. So I played a little bit of football, ran some track, played soccer, but the one thing I never played was baseball. And I wish I did, but I don't know, I guess I just missed out on that one. What about you?
My favorite sport is football, so I play that the most.
Okay, all right, well, you'll be good.
Thank you, Tyler. What events did you run?
I can't remember. I think 100-meter hurdles.
Okay.
We had a 4x1 team that was pretty good.
Awesome.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Hey, how are you?
I'm Nadia, and I'm from Pennsylvania. Can you remember a time when you were younger and you were kind of down or upset? How did you push through that to get to where you are now?
Whenever I get down, I always pray. I think that's the biggest thing that's got me through anything in my life that's just gone wrong. I think those times are always going to come up. You never know what's going to happen, tomorrow or today. But I think if you have faith, if you believe in that, then those prayers will definitely get you through it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. All right, we'll send in the closer. I told you these are the hard ones. That was a good question.
I know.
That was a good question.
Thank you.
Bill from Poughkeepsie, New York. My question is, with the big trade that just happened, Isaiah Thomas was so big to the Celtics, became their heart. How do you feel about Kyrie coming opposed to Isaiah moving? Do you have a preference, or I know they're both big players, but what are your feelings about him coming, Kyrie?
Like you said, Isaiah's a great player. The whole city loved him, and I think a lot of people are sad, even in the organization, to see him go. Kyrie is a great player, one of a kind, and it's crazy because you're looking at their numbers and are almost identical. You're getting 2 great players either way. So, I think it's just up to the management to decide, who they want and what pieces to shift around, and it's a business. So, for me, I'm coming in, and all I can do is try to just mesh with whoever's, lined up in the same jersey as me.
Yeah, thank you.
You knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm thank you to the Boston Celtics. Oh, I'm sorry. Look at this. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to cut us off here. I'm like, let's move on. Let's move on. No,
My name's Joe. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm Nadia's father. I was wondering what it was like to play for, which I'm thinking you did, both Mike Krzyzewski and Larry Brown. And what do you remember from both of them to carry you in your career?
You know, a lot of people ask me what's the difference between Coach Brown and Coach K, and I think what makes them both so great is that, you know, they know so much about the game, one, and then two, I think they always strive for perfection. So, you know, whether it's, you know, stopping to play in practice and knowing where everybody was and what everybody's supposed to do is big time. I think Coach K's biggest strength is that he can motivate his guys to do almost anything for him. And then I think Coach Brown, I think he connects with his guys on a personal level. That's how he, you know, got me to, you know, to really get my confidence up in a time when, you know, I transferred and I was unsure. So I think the lessons, there's a long list of things that I could probably tell you that, you know, they taught me, but, you know, they're great coaches for a reason, and I wouldn't be here, you know, without either of them.
Thanks.
Excellent. Both of those guys up there, right? It's remarkable. Now, I'm not cutting anyone off now. Now please give a warm thank you to Semi Ojeleye.